Sometimes self-improvement is not enough. I recently realized that to achieve my potential, I was going to have to break free from the parts of myself that were hindering me. And for that, I needed to learn the art of self-destruction. The majority of videos on this channel have been about maximizing your strengths to achieve your potential. But this video is different. This video requires you to take a long, hard look in the mirror. So in this video, I wanted to outline the simple 3-step method I took to confront the parts of me that were holding me back from achieving my goals. Stay tuned. Step 1. Imagine the worst version of you. All too often we are told to imagine the good things that can come from our hard work, like the fame and the riches, and we harness these good feelings to motivate us. But at least for me, that doesn't work nearly as well as imagining the alternative. Who I could be if I don't achieve. See, for me, the idea of being someone who is lazy or selfish, and most importantly, didn't live up to their potential, scares me. At least enough to ensure that I keep working hard to achieve my goals. So take time to really think and write a list of things you don't want to become. Do you want to be someone who gave up on their passion because they wanted to take the easy route? Or maybe someone who constantly set goals but failed to commit to them? Then once you have this list written down, think to yourself, which one of these are you doing right now? Do you have a history of aiming high but failing to reach your target? Do you often fall victim to your impulses and fail to have discipline? Then once you have a list of all these things you need to change about yourself, then you can move on to the next step of self-destruction. Step 2. Planning the path to destruction. The first step of this journey was to acknowledge the need for change. The next step is to plan the route. For all these parts of yourself that you want to change, write down exactly how you're going to do that. For example, if you feel like you're a lazy person, how will you overcome that? Will you wake up before a specific hour every day? Or perhaps stick to a specific exercise routine? Only you can set out the route to becoming a better person, but bear in mind, whilst you're passionate about releasing these burdens, you need to make your goals realistic and clear. There is a reason why most New Year's resolutions fail, and that's because on this random turn of the world, people decide that their life is going to change and they're going to become a new person. Like people decide they're going to be a kind of person this year or eat healthier, but what does that even mean? How can you expect to change when you don't know what specific things you need to do in order to make that change? Additionally, progress comes from small steps in the right direction. Very rarely are you able to completely turn your life around in one day. So we need to make our goals achievable, measurable, and most importantly, meaningful in order to make a difference in our life. For example, I personally was sick of being someone who constantly spent time scrolling on their phone. So I made a plan. I laid out exactly when I was and wasn't allowed to go on my phone. And gradually over time, I started to implement additional times and even certain locations in which I wasn't allowed to use my phone. And now I have a much better grip on it. My goal wasn't I'm gonna stop using my phone, because that's not only vague but also not what I wanted. Instead, I was specific, realistic, and it was aiming to make a meaningful change in my life. I did make a more in-depth video on that process, including tips from a Harvard psychiatrist, so feel free to check that out after this one. So you have your list of things you need to change. You have an exact plan on how you're gonna change them. Now it's time for step 3. Step 3, change your self-image. It doesn't matter how many lists you write or goals you set, nothing's going to change unless you believe it can. How we view our own capabilities and personalities makes a massive difference in our motivation and our mood, especially when we're trying to make a change in our life. If you refer to yourself as someone who is lazy, then getting up early or exercising is going to feel a lot tougher. Or if you tell yourself you're someone who's impulsive, then sticking to a routine and having discipline is going to feel impossible. And this is a result of something called cognitive dissonance, which is essentially our brain disliking things that contradict with our beliefs. It's a feeling of discomfort when someone acts in a different way than who they believe to be. So if we tell ourselves we are a certain type of person, then the moment we start to act differently to that, our brain is going to push these signals of discomfort and try to revert us back to how we were acting before. So over time, by changing the way we refer to ourselves, whilst also taking those actionable steps we've already planned out, we can realign our self-image with who we want to be and make a real change. For me, I used to refer to myself as someone who was easily distractible. I truly used to believe it was just who I am. It was only until I threw out that idea and took actionable steps to achieve a deeper focus in my work was I able to get a grip on my concentration. Now I find it much easier to focus on my work. So start to tell yourself, even if you don't believe it, that you are someone capable of making this change. So there it is, my 3-step method to self-destruction. Number 1, imagine the worst version of yourself. Number 2, planning the route to destruction. And number 3, changing your self-image. Look, removing our negative attributes and habits is really important for making progress. They can really hold us back from taking the right steps forward. However, be mindful. Know that whilst these negative feelings can act as great motivators to making the right steps, it can also be very toxic. I would be lying if I said ruminating over my flaws didn't motivate me to make a change, but it also can really negatively impact my mood, and that's a balance I'm really trying to master. So just be aware and also utilize other tactics to maintain your motivation, not just negative emotion. And if you are interested in some other tactics, I did make a video on Chris Williamson's top 4 pieces of advice to live a better life. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out right there. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And aside from that, have a lovely day. Bye bye.